health, energy, and behaviors affecting people, leadership, and performance inside organizations. And today we're going to be discussing around the subject of when good people start becoming quiet. Now, you might have noticed this, in teams, in places that you work, where there's one person, and previously they would always be open to having a conversation. They'd always be open to challenge. They'd always be open to asking questions and also pushing back. But over time, that person has become quiet. They're not turning up. Well, they're turning up, but they're not asking as many questions. They're not challenging as much. And it's just starting. Yes, they're still turning up. They're still getting the work done, but they're not really there. And we're just going to have a quick conversation around, well, what has caused this? What impacts that is happening? And what could potentially happen in the future to those people around them and also the wider organization as well. So, Kels, from your time in corporate, I know it's like many, many moons ago. Okay.
Hang on, I'm not that old.
No, but in the scheme of things, it is a long time, isn't it? Right. But, could you resonate with this?
100%. Yeah. With all topics, can resonate with it. The time when, as you said, you're involved, you're excited to be there, you want to share your views. But, for me, over the prolonged period of time, you start to become insular because you feel like you're no longer being heard. Your opinions don't matter. What you say is kind of like, yeah, but nothing changes. So over time...
Now, sorry, I just want to... Go on.
No, go on.
No, what I was going to say, is this an important subject then that people should pay attention to?
Of course. If you value their work, if you value them as a person, always. Otherwise, again, what does that say? What does that say if you know that person's become quiet, if you know that person's completely changed their character, their essence of their being, who you know them to be? Why would you not raise that? Why would you not question that? Why would you not check in on that person?
Because what about some people might just think that, well, like the team's just performing. They're just not on with it. They're just getting on with tasks.
Sure. And there is an element of that. There's truth in that. They might just be performing. And at first it might not be very noticeable. It's just like, oh, okay, they're just doing the do. But, if you're aware and you value your people and you're like, over time, you're like, something's different. The dynamic's different. The presence is different. Their energy is different. Then I think it's only like, it should be, your priority to check in on them. What's changed? Why is it changed? And it might not be nothing, but it could be everything.
That's it, right? Because what some of the factors, right? Like there's endless, we've got an endless list of what could be causing that person to be going quiet. It could be something in the workplace. It could be something going on at home. It could be something personal. It's endless there. But if it has been noticed, I think that someone does just need to check in, regardless of whether the results are still happening.
Just be a human, check in. Especially what I can say is like, as I know you can relate to this as well, because you were there with me. If you're aware that someone's energy has changed, and then when the day's done and you're on your way home and you're still thinking about it, then that is telling you, that's a signal enough to say, I'm going to check in, because it costs nothing But for them, it could change everything. And also it could change everything within the workspace for your team as well. And I think, if anything, like, if you've got this, something you can't stop thinking about, and if you're like, I just need to ask that person if they're okay, but, you keep then dwindling it out with, but results are coming in, teams performing, work seems good, just get out of your head and ask. What's the worst that's going to happen? If it gives you peace of mind, you'll be like, I'm so pleased I did that.
Exactly, right? Because what could, like, the knock-on effects be if that person isn't okay and they are like there is an issue, but they just like they're just going inside. Like, what could then be the knock-on effects personally and also like professionally as well, like to the company?
Well, you've got to look at, like, the mental health side of it. Like I said, like, how's it affecting their behavior, how they're showing up, and if they are becoming quiet, and what, then what happens. It's little things, right, as well. It's always the little things. It's like, perhaps they were someone who'd always like to go and get a coffee, in the office kitchen, and when they were there, they'd always have a little chat and just be like, how are you? And that stopped. Maybe even at lunchtimes, they'd always go out and have a little walk and get some fresh air, and all those little habits and behaviors have stopped. Then as well, that's, a signal to look out for.
Yeah, that's it. And again, like the knock-on effects, like personally, or like that could be one of the signs. I did a video on this yesterday. That could be one of the signs that they are approaching burnout, because things are then just like all becoming on top of them, and they don't know how to address it. So then it's like, well, I'm just going to go quiet. They might not be able to have the capacity to be able to air it or know where to start. So they're just going to do that. And I just think things might be getting all on top of them. Personally, that could be one of the factors. Also, if there is a problem within the company and they're like you say, they're not feeling valued, or, they feel that there is no alignment, or, it's a toxic environment, whatever it might be. If they have an issue professionally, well, that might be one of the signs. Is like, well, no one actually came up and to see if I was okay. So why do I want to stay in this environment?
Yeah, work isn't done so well, or perhaps it's just less care, less attention.
Yeah.
And, their focus is gone. They're doing the do, but they're not. Do you know what I mean? They're getting it done.
They're going through the motions, right?
It's half-hearted. It's ticking a box, but it's half-hearted.
Yeah.
Maybe as well, like some little, but not little, like errors are starting to happen.
Yeah.
So then it starts to leak out to the team.
Exactly. And then people might not want to start going to them because they're just like, well, they're not really there.
And again, it all circles back around to the same thing: communication, community, being valued, within the team.
Exactly. Again, it's that word community. Even though you're at work, even though you're going there, to get paid, there still has to be a community. And again, just because it's silent doesn't mean that person is, or doesn't mean it's, they're agreeing. In fact, it could mean the opposite. It just might mean that there's actually a problem, and they actually, they just don't know, or if they are going to air it, if anything is actually going to be done productively about it.
100%.
So if you are watching this and you have noticed, and this is resonating, and there is someone that used to speak up, someone that, used to ask questions, someone that used to challenge, but now they have become a little bit more reserved, shoot them an email, shoot them a Slack, or just go up to them and tap them on the shoulder. Hey, fancy a coffee? You okay?
I'm going to say, do you know what? Just saying to someone, do you want to get a coffee on lunch? Do you want to go for a walk together on lunch?
Yeah.
Do you want to have a walk and talk? That might be all it takes for someone to feel heard and valued, but also to get off their chest. And then that could be the catalyst for change.
Exactly. So if there is, make sure that you do it today. Don't put it off. Do it today, action it, and make sure you do it before our next episode of the Back in Charge Brief.